Hello and welcome to In Suspense, a podcast or vodcast for fans and writers of crime fiction. I'm Leslie Cara and my co-host is Lauren North.
Hello.
In our last episode, we talked to the wonderful Tricia Saklecha about her second novel, Can You See Me Now? And it was a really interesting discussion. So if you've missed that one, do catch up with it on our YouTube channel. I was particularly fascinated by what she was saying about how it's inevitable, really, that she sets her novels over two continents. Because that's how she lives her life, isn't it? She divides her time between India and the UK. So I thought that was really interesting because we were talking about setting and culture in that particular episode. And I really like the sound of the one she's writing now as well. I think she said it was a cast of Indian characters but set in Scotland.
Yes, yeah, it did sound good.
So hurry up and write that one, Tricia, if you're listening, because we've read your first two and we love them. So we're very much looking forward to that one as well. And we've got a great guest on today as well. But before we talk about that and today's topic, I was thinking the other day, Laurie, that we haven't really had much of a catch up, have we, about our writing and where we're at, really. And I thought maybe it was time we sort of touched base with that. So I was wondering how you were getting on, you know, how productive you've been. Are you managing to fit writing in around homeschooling? What's going on?
All right. Some days are better than others. I am, still writing every day, and I'm trying to write 1,000 words a day every day, including the weekends, of my first draft of book 4. But I'm actually not under a lot of pressure, so it's quite nice. But I still want to keep writing because I think it's helping me keep quite sane, and it's my time, and it's me, and it's not kids, and it's not homeschool, and it's not entertainment, it's just mine. I just at the weekend hit 50,000 words, which feels like quite a good point.
Wow.
My first drafts are normally only about 75, so I feel like I'm on the last stretch now, so I'm hoping to finish in the next 3 or 4 weeks, which will be a relief, and then I can actually see what the book's about and completely rewrite it, as I normally do. But other than that, I did my page proofs for book 3, Safe at Home, which is out in September, so that's now completely done. I've got nothing else for that now, so they came in really quick, and that's all that I've been doing. But what about you, Leslie? It's not long now until The Dare is out, I believe.
Well, the ebook of the Dare is actually out today.
Yay!
So
Happy publication day.
thank you. It's always a bit weird, isn't it, having your ebook publication day and celebrating it, and then you celebrate it again on the sort of the other publication day. So it feels like you're getting twice the excitement. But that's good. It is exciting.
Oh, I think you should celebrate every single one. Yes.
I think so, definitely. And do you know it? I'm surprised at how excited I do feel, actually, because you know I thought I'd be an old hand at it now and be I've got another book coming out, I've been through that, know what that's about. But actually, it's still just as thrilling, if not more so. I think almost feel like it's my debut all over again. In fact, I think we should pretend that every book is our debut, shouldn't we? Because debuts get all the fun, don't they, really?
Are you still feeling that pressure of seeing the reviews coming in? Because that's always hard with the debut, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose that bit definitely gets easier because you know what to expect, and you don't. It's not that you don't care as much. Of course, you care, but you realise that it's out of your control once it's out there. You know, people respond to it. Some people will love it, some people won't. You know, that's just so you kind of become a little bit toughened.
I think you're right.
I think I've got quite a tough skin anyway when it comes to reviews. I tend to, I've had some lovely reviews already from early readers for the Dare, and I've been really pleased with how it's landed. So one can only hope.
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. So I'm sure you'll have lots more lovely reviews coming in as well.
Thank you very much. But the blog tour, it's got a fantastic blog tour lined up starting on the 4th of March when the hardback comes out. So I'm really pleased about that. And I've got the lovely hardbacks now. So, they're so shiny. And look at this lovely spine. It's great.
Oh, I know, it's very
Such a...
bright. Yeah, in fact, like, because it hits very nice with my yellow over there.
Oh, yes, it does, doesn't it? And of course, yellow is such a lovely
Right.
springtime colour, isn't it? The daffodils are yellow. And it makes me yearn for the sunny weather and being able to sit out in the garden and have a coffee. And I mean, after all the snow we've had, I've liked the snow too. I have to say, I'm a big kid when it comes to snow. But the rain this morning has washed it all away here.
Yeah, it's quite a relief actually. It was getting really icy out there, so I was glad to see it's gone this morning.
Yeah, the pavements around here have been absolutely treacherous. They really have, and so it is. And it was getting to that sort of dirty, slushy stage. Which isn't as nice as the lovely pure white virgin snow
No.
we had last week.
Yeah, how are you getting on with your book that you're writing?
Well, really well, actually. I mean, I don't want to tempt fate. I'm always a little bit sort of wary of saying, it's going really well, just in case you're setting yourself up for a fall. But having struggled with getting into it last year, I feel like I'm on a real roll with it now, which is probably just as well because it's due in at the end of March.
No pressure.
So no pressure. No, but I do feel I'm on a roll. I don't know about you. I mean, I had the odd sort of bad day where I can't get into it. I had one yesterday actually where I couldn't seem to do much. But generally, I've been writing about 1,200 to 1,400 words a day, and that's very, very unusual for me. Normally, I'm not at all motivated by word count. I just write in scenes, and as long as I've progressed the novel in some way, I'm happy with that. But it seems to be gathering momentum now, along with the pace of the book, which obviously gets faster and faster, doesn't it, towards the end. So I feel like I'm really gaining that momentum now, and I'm at that stage where it's a very productive stage, and I would quite happily sit at my desk all day, and I do. Actually, and I don't sort of. Sometimes I'm in the flow, and I don't stop till about 7:30 at night. Obviously, have a few breaks, but I'm really enjoying the process. Which it does make a change because I think last year was hard for me with the writing, and with everything else going on with mum and dad. So on a roll. Yeah.
I do think you get to a point, don't you, in the book, just after the halfway mark where it starts to pick up and it's such a wrench to pull yourself away. I'm certainly there now. Like, it's half term this week, so I promised lots of fun activities, but at the same time I keep sneaking into my study. But yeah, it's tough, but I keep reminding myself that I had like this light bulb, like stupid moment last week where I was like, I've only got, in 10 years time I'll be in my 40s and my children will be adults. And I won't have this, and I must enjoy it while I've got it. But it's quite temporary, and even in hopefully 3 weeks' time when they go back to school, that will help as well. So I just need to keep reminding myself not to focus too much on the work, I think.
Yes. Oh, I remember that time very well. That sort of, I mean, I wasn't a published writer then, obviously, but I was still trying to write and writing. And I remember sort of, you don't want to resent not being able to write because you want to be with your children. But at the same time, a part of you does resent the fact that you can't get on and do it. I
lock myself away at this point and finish it. I can finish it in 2 days if I just had the time. Obviously, I can't, but I tell myself, if you just left me alone, I would be all right.
Well, you've done incredibly well to get to 50,000 words in your first draft with no pressure on you. So we'd better start talking about today's topic, I guess. Enough about us, So today's topic is a fresh twist on the classic thriller concepts. That's quite difficult to say, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad you had that bit.
Fresh twists on classic thriller concepts. And so I suppose by classic thriller concepts, we mean things like, those sort of tropes like the missing person or the missing child, or maybe the abusive or coercive partner or ex, the stalker, the mysterious stranger in town, the locked room mystery, all those sort of topics and themes that sort of fit so well in our genre, in the psychological suspense genre, but which we have to be really careful because we've got to continually adapt them, haven't we, and update them so that we're not getting bored with writing the same thing or reading the same thing. We have to find fresh things to do with those ideas, and it's a perennial problem, isn't it? Really, for
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think there is this fear as you're coming up with ideas and writing books that the freshness is going to dry up, and that you are going to fall into these sort of just books which have been done before too much, and it's gonna be a struggle. And it's certainly, there's nothing worse than hearing your editor say, oh, that's a bit of a trope, isn't it, so let's cut that out, which happened to me actually last week. But yeah, and there's books like The Girl on the Train, which at the time was considered this fresh new concept within the genre, and now you can't use alcohol or drugs at all in a book without it feeling like a trope. So you do have to keep constantly reinventing the ideas. You can't just sit back and be like, oh, I've done this now, that's great. You've just got to keep reinventing. So it's a constant thing.
Yes. Although, when readers have a certain expectation about a book and they think, oh, I know how this is going to go because I've read similar books, authors can really play around with that, can't they? I mean, I'm thinking of the sort of classic, Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl, where you think you know what direction you're travelling in, and then all of a sudden in the middle the rug is literally ripped out from beneath your feet.
Yeah.
You think, whoa, what happened there? I was not expecting that. I mean, I won't give any spoilers if there's anyone left who still hasn't read Gone Girl.
Probably not.
Highly unlikely, but but so readers can do. Authors can do interesting things with familiar tropes, familiar sort of concepts, if they think sort of in an innovative way. But that's what we've all got to keep coming up with, isn't it? New ideas.
Absolutely. And I do get really excited when I see new books coming out that almost play on that trope, and you think, oh, that's going to be really good. So Claire McIntosh has got a book out this summer called Hostage, which is set completely on an aeroplane, as I understand it. And you just think, well, it just doesn't get more locked room than being however many thousands of feet up in the air. So I'm really excited to read that and see what she's done with it. So that's an exciting one.
Yes, I'm really keen to read that one as well. I mean, I'm scared of flying at the best of times. I'm not a brilliant flyer. I mean, I love travelling, but get very scared about going on planes, and so I'm hoping that doesn't terrify me completely, although nobody's flying anywhere at the moment, so that's but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that one. So that brings us on really to today's guest, doesn't it? And we are going to welcome in a moment, she will be joining us, Sarah Pearse. Hello and welcome, Sarah Pearse, to In Suspense. It's lovely to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And before we launch into the questions, I'm going to give a little introduction for you, a formal introduction. So Sarah Pearse, everybody, lives by the sea in South Devon with her husband and 2 daughters. She studied English and creative writing at the University of Warwick and worked in brand PR for a variety of household brands. After moving to Switzerland in her 20s, she spent every spare moment exploring the mountains in the Swiss alpine town of Crans-Montana, the dramatic setting that inspired her debut novel, The Sanatorium, which was published at the start of February and is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick for February. Woohoo! And now a New York Times bestseller. So congratulations, Sarah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a huge whirlwind the past week. It started off with the Reese news and then the New York Times news. So yeah, still sinking in really.
I bet. What a couple of weeks you've had. Absolutely fantastic. So do you want to? I mean, I'm halfway through the Sanatorium. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. And I wondered if you would mind just telling us a little bit, or telling the viewers and the listeners a little bit about what the novel is about.
Yeah, of course. The Sanatorium's a bit of a creepy thriller. I think I've heard it described as creepy, sinister, lots of ways, or gothic thriller. It's set in a luxury hotel called Le Sommet, which is a building that's been converted from an old abandoned sanatorium. And the book follows Ellen Warner, who's a British detective, as she travels to the hotel to celebrate her brother's engagement. But almost as soon as she arrives, things take a bit of a sort of dark turn when her brother's fiance Law disappears, and it's left to Ellen to investigate. There's a snowstorm. As when she arrives, there's a raging snowstorm, but that just gets worse and worse. So it's up to Ellen, up against the odds, to sort of solve the crime as more people go missing.
Brilliant, fantastic.
And I finished it last week, and yeah, it really gripped me. The opening chapter, I was like, oh! Yeah, it is, as you say, really creepy and very chilling. And the way you write those tense moments, they're not only gripping, but they had this real sense of unease. It really reminded me of some Stephen King books, actually, the way that you weave that tension in. And one of the things I loved was how the hotel almost felt like a character in itself, and I wasn't sure if I could trust it or not. Was that intentional when you first started writing it, to create that almost the setting as a character, or was it something that developed as you were writing?
That's actually a really good question. That's something no one's asked before, about whether it developed. And I think it does definitely become a character, but it probably, as you say in the sort of latter half of the question, I think it actually developed as the book went on. The setting and the actual building itself was the first thing I had. So it was very much, I'd read an article about the history of sanatoria in the town in Crans-Montana, and that's where it sparked from. And the more I researched and watched lots of videos actually on YouTube, I don't know if you've seen the urban exploration videos where they kind of, actually I think it's very much illegally, break into buildings and film. I kind of, I got a very sort of creeping sense of unease myself, and I thought it would be really great to sort of weave that into the narrative. But it developed as the book went on. The more I actually looked back at my writing, I thought I'm weaving that in almost without knowing. But yeah, it's very much a development as opposed to sort of a plan from the beginning.
Amazing.
Great. Well, our topic today, Sarah, is a fresh twist on the classic thriller concept. And, we really think that, the Sanatorium is a really fresh and twisty take on the locked room mystery. And so we were wondering really where the idea for the novel first originated, and, and how did you manage to sort of make it so fresh, a fresh take on what is quite a sort of common, a trope, if you like, the locked room mystery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the idea very much sprang, as I mentioned, from an article I'd read in a local magazine. It was kind of almost the equivalent, I'm sure you have, not sure, like a Devon Life magazine, but it was kind of a Crans-Montana Life magazine. And they were talking about the history of sanatoria in the area, and actually the legacy it had. So some of the clinics are still there today as clinics, obviously not for tuberculosis, but some have been converted into hotels, and that really sort of sparked my imagination. I thought, how amazing would it feel as a guest? Would you actually have great feelings about staying in a converted sort of building? And I'm fascinated by repurposed buildings in general. I think the idea, the history and sort of stories about staying in places that have once been, I've looked at prisons, I've seen schools that have been converted into residential buildings, and it sort of sparked my idea. And I think the whole, when you said the sort of fresh take on it, I think I very much wanted to include the clinical aspects of sanatoriums, and I don't think that's something I'd read before. I don't know whether it's somewhere I'd necessarily want to stay, having clinical reminders of the building, but yeah, I think that's probably gave it a fresher take. I hadn't read anything like that, and it sparked my imagination. And I think if it's something fresh for you as the author, perhaps it then comes across as fresh for the reader. I don't know.
I think it certainly does. I'm absolutely loving it. I'll probably end up finishing it today. It's absolutely, it's quite addictive. So
yeah, it certainly had me gripped. And one of the other things that I found quite unique about it, and that had like that fresh feeling as well, was your main character, Ellen. As you said at the start, she's a detective, but she's a really compelling character, and the way that you have weaved her backstory into the novel felt very realistic. And I can't think of a book that I've read which has done that so well. It almost felt like the second book in like a series where like this whole life had played out beforehand. It really had this that feeling to it. And what I was thinking when I was reading it was that as you said, you started with the setting and the sanatorium as the idea.
Yeah.
With the character, how did you go about creating such compelling characters, especially Ellen, like that you knew would fit so well into the sanatorium?
Yeah, I think I had the setting, and I probably had in my mind a character like Ellen before. So I hadn't thought about having a character as a detective, but as the book kind of evolved in my head and I had the setting and I thought I wanted it to be this hotel, I very much had my character then in mind, and she really developed. And I think it was really, when you mentioned the backstory, I think it was really important for me to weave that backstory, because I had to know her, because she's so much of a part of the narrative as the main narrator. I wanted that to be something quite organic. And I think you're right when you say it kind of feels like there was a book beforehand. One of a reader in America has actually said, I'd be really interested to know read the book that came before this. And I said, there isn't one, but there could be. But yeah, it took quite a while to kind of weave that through. And I really wanted her, one of the things I wanted her to be as a character is obviously people talk about her being a flawed character. Some people mention, oh, she seems quite weak as a character, and I kind of wanted to flip that on its head. I wanted to have a character that has got sort of anxieties and emotions, as we do in real life, but is still able to sort of try and go about her job and overcome that, and for that to be seen as a strength rather than a weakness. I think sometimes people feel someone openly expressing their emotions is a weakness, and I didn't want that to be. So I think having her starting the novel where she's in that state, I think you as a reader are going on that journey, but I think she needed that compelling kind of reason for being in that way when we meet her, for it to seem authentic. So yeah,
she's a great character. I'm really enjoying reading her, and I like what you're saying about making her sort of flaws, so to speak, her strengths. But that's quite an original take, definitely. And I also like the way that you're weaving in the backstories of the other characters and showing us the shared parts of their history. And I was thinking that's quite some feat to weave in all those different narrative threads. And I was wondering how you approached the planning of this novel, whether you had it all mapped out in advance, or whether as you wrote it, it was more like a journey of a process of discovery.
Yeah, I think in terms of the actual sort of plot structure, I very much had that laid out. And I think, I don't know how both of you work, but I really sort of like to know where I'm going. And that's very much developed from sort of my short stories, where you're obviously dealing with a slightly different, very different medium, but you really do know where you're going. And I have with all of my writing, but with a novel, I found it quite challenging, the plotting process. So I needed that initial structure. But in terms of how you were saying about the characters and how I wove the backstories through, and that happened, that again was organic. As I got to know the characters, elements sort of appeared. But yeah, I did have the very basics at the beginning there. And I think for me, that was super helpful. I think otherwise I would probably have overwritten a lot, which I have done with drafts of things previously. Hold my hand up there. But yeah, so I very much got to know the characters. And I think it's only really sometimes with various scenes, you have two characters together and things emerge. With Ellen and her brother, there were lots of things. I was almost surprised when I finished writing. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. That gives me a lot more information about their past. I think when you see the characters interacting, it tells you a lot. But yeah, I very much in that first draft had the initial structure, but yeah, the characters themselves evolved.
Yes, I love it when that happens, when characters surprise you, and I think I work in a similar way. I think maybe Laurie does too, where you map out as much as you can and the key plot points, but actually what happens between those plot points and the conversations and dialogues and things that become revealed through the characters, that often surprises you, and it's wonderful when that happens, isn't it? And you think, oh yes, of course, that's the obvious thing to happen, and you hadn't planned it. So
it's a very sort of sweet spot, isn't it, where you have something happening. I think sometimes with the writing, someone was saying to me the other day about what's your favourite part of the process, and I think it's quite magical with that first novel where you don't have the deadline, where you can kind of let your characters take you in these different directions, and you have a lot more freedom, don't you? I think with the second one on the deadline, I was finding I had to be slightly even stricter with my plotting and process, but with the first I really let that take me, and that was super exciting.
So talking about your next novel, are you allowed to tell us anything about it yet? Or can you just give us, does it involve Ellen at all? Or does it involve like that fresh take again on a classic?
Oh, yeah, good question. Yeah, no, it very much involves Ellen again, but yeah, she does escape the snow this time. A few people have asked, is she staying in Switzerland? I said, no, She's actually coming back to a fictionalized version of where I live now, by the sea. But yeah, I can't give too much away in terms of the plot. But yeah, there's some very gothic undertones, and it is a little bit scary, I've been told by my agent as well. So
oh, I look forward.
Yeah, she makes her return, and the kind of her relationships with her partner Will, you'll see that evolve throughout the book as well. So
oh, that's really exciting. And so you just mentioned that the difference between writing your first book and having a lot of time. How has the process changed for you with book 2?
There was a big difference. The pandemic being the main one. I think we were talking before, weren't we, about the how challenging it is kind of with homeschooling. And yeah, the deadline itself just meant I had, the whole process was contracted. So I think it was, whereas I had that little bit more freedom to kind of work through things, I very much needed it sort of plotted out in advance. And yeah, I did, things definitely evolved, but I wanted to work out, again, the character backstories. We have a few new characters in advance, but yeah, it was hugely challenging during the pandemic. I was homeschooling, juggling everyone being home, which meant a lot more work in general. So yeah, it was a tough one, I have to say.
Oh, no, I bet it was. And I can completely sympathise with that. So before we move on to our more light-hearted questions, can you tell us, what are you reading at the moment? Have you got anything good on the go?
Yeah, I actually had a bit of a reading slump. I think it was a common thing during the lockdowns. I hadn't been reading loads, but I have a few proofs. I can't, obviously, some people can see, some can just hear, but I've got The Therapist by Helen Flood, which I've started, which is very, very good. And then I've got another book here called Into the Jungle by Erica Ferenik, which I've never actually read any of hers. There's another book someone recommended of hers, which is meant to be brilliant, but yeah, I'm a few pages into that one, and that's great. And I have I have to say, a towering TBR pile to get through.
Yes, I can sympathise with that as well. What about you, Leslie? What are you reading this week?
Do you know, I'm not reading this week because I've been on such a roll with my I'm reading the Sanatorium, obviously, but I'm not reading anything else because I'm on a real roll with my writing at the moment, and I did a lot of proofreading in the coming up to December and in the early part, this January. And so I think the Sanatorium is going to keep me happy till probably 10 o'clock tonight when I aim to have finished it. And after that, I'm probably going to start on The Pact by Sharon Bolton, which I was sent last week, and talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But so many books, so little time.
Well, I'm reading That Night by Gillian McAllister, which I got a little sneaky early proof of, which I am really excited about. I only started it last night, but I just know it's going to be one of her best, I reckon. It's so good. So yeah, I'm absolutely enjoying that one at the moment.
Yeah, hers just get better and better, don't they?
They really do. Yeah. I reckon this is going to be her best one.
I saw the cover reveal a few days ago. The swimming, the blue of the swimming pool on the cover is absolutely great, isn't it? A really good concept. Yeah, fantastic. Well, Sarah, we've come to the part of the show where we call it the fun part. We hope it's fun. That's for you to decide, really, isn't it? And seeing as the Sanatorium involves being the guests being trapped in a hotel, we were wondering what was the funniest or scariest or strangest thing that's ever happened to you in a hotel.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a scary thing, but I was together with my now boyfriend in a hotel in Italy, and it was probably an embarrassing thing more than anything. We'd had breakfast in bed, and the waiter came into the room and basically spilt the breakfast all over.
Oh
no!
He was so embarrassed, and it's one of those moments where you kind of jump up, mildly semi-clothed, to help, and it was just a very, very awkward moment rather than a scary moment. But it's one we still reminisce about now. And I said, he looked like he wanted the floor to sink him through. It was terrible moment, but funny in hindsight, but not for him.
Funny. What about you, Laurie? Has anything happened to you in a hotel?
Yes, I travelled to Amsterdam with a work colleague. This is when I worked in public relations, and it was one of those things where we'd gone and done this conference thing, gone straight to the hotel, dumped our bags, and then gone straight out for our evening out, and had far too many drinks. Ended up at a nightclub, middle of the night. And then we went to get our taxi home, and neither of us could remember the name of the hotel we were staying at. We literally were a complete blank, and like it was near the airport, but obviously there was tons near the airport, and we were just, it took us a long time. We ended up finding the name of the taxi driver who had taken us into town, and called him through various different methods, and managed to get him to remind us which hotel it was at. And then we couldn't remember the room number. It was not our best moment. So that will teach you to write it on your hand before you go out anywhere. So what about you, Leslie?
Well, I was trying to think about this, and at first I couldn't think of one, and then I remembered what happened to me a couple of years ago. It was actually in London, and I'd got an appointment at Moorfields Eye Hospital because I have glaucoma, and so I have to have regular checks. And after, it's quite a sort of longish procedure, and they put various drops in your eyes, and so I didn't want to travel back. And I was actually going on to do another event afterwards, so I thought I'd treat myself and stay in a really nice hotel right opposite Moorfields. It was quite a posh hotel. It's my weakness, actually. I do love a posh hotel. haven't been able to stay in any for a long while, but so there I was in this fabulous room. And it was one of these sort of smart technology rooms where everything is controlled by a little pad. So, you pressed a button and the curtains came open, pressed another button and they closed, and there was mood lighting. And there's me, a spoilt thing lying on this wonderful bed thinking, oh, isn't this lovely? Really, really, treated myself. And then I had my appointment, came back to the hotel. I met my son and his girlfriend, and they joined me, and we had a nice meal. And then that night I was asleep, sound asleep in bed, middle of the night, suddenly all the lights came on and the curtains came open, and it was a big, big window, and it felt like I was completely, discombobulated because it was the middle of the night, and it felt like I was on the stage with these curtains open. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And obviously the person before me had sort of set an alarm call or something for the middle of the night. Or maybe I'd done it by mistake when I was playing around with this little thing. I don't know. It was, so I'm afraid I had to help myself to a small brandy from the minibar to calm my nerves after that.
Oh, it's good to hear we didn't have anything too scary in that. More funny and embarrassing, I think, by the sounds of it.
Definitely, yes.
Right, quick fire round, Sarah. So I'm going to ask you some very quick questions, and you have to give me the first thing that comes into your head, okay?
Very good, yeah.
Right, so it's nice and simple. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cat or dog?
Cat.
Scrivener or Word?
Word.
Paperback or Kindle?
Paperback.
Summer or winter?
Oh, both.
Mad night out or dinner for two?
Dinner for two.
Pen and paper or keyboard?
Pen and paper.
Desk or sofa?
Desk.
Swanky hotel or cozy cottage?
Swanky hotel.
Trapped on a snowy mountain or on a desert island?
Desert island.
That's it, well done.
Well
I think
done.
after the Sanatorium, I don't think anyone would say they want to be trapped on a snowy mountain.
I know a few people have said it's my nightmare. A few people had actually laughed and said, I was really looking forward to going skiing after reading your book. No.
Oh gosh, the time has gone so quickly, hasn't it, today?
Yeah.
It's amazing, and we've really enjoyed having you on the show, Sarah.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Have you got anything exciting? Well, apart from the excitement that is your life generally at the moment, any events or anything coming up that we know about?
Yeah, and then I actually have an Agatha. This is for the US. There's an All About Agatha podcast, which I had never heard of before. But yeah, I love Agatha Christie, but I'm not an expert, so I've had to give that as a caveat. But apparently that's okay. So they've given me a few questions around some of her earlier works and short stories. But yeah, they've seen lots of parallels with the book, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one and hearing what they have to say.
Oh, brilliant!
That's really interesting.
Well, Sarah, it's been lovely having you on, and we wish you all the success. Well, we wish you continued success with the Sanatorium. If you haven't read it yet, viewers, listeners, for goodness sake, get yourself a copy, because as I say, Laurie's read it and loved it. I'm halfway through, and we'll definitely finish it today because I can't put it down. And in fact, this recording we're doing today is the only thing that's stopping me from finishing it off. And no, it's been a great pleasure having you on. And yeah, wish you great success. So in our next episode, which will be in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be speaking to the rather fabulous Jack Jordan. And the topic is going to be, I think it's the ups and downs of an author's life, isn't it? What is it? The highs and lows. That's it.
Yes,
the highs and lows
career,
of a writing career. I've got it. I've written it down here. I just didn't read what I'd written. The highs and lows of a writing career, particularly during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack Jordan will be on to talk to us about that. And then 2 weeks later, we're going to be speaking to Nadine Matheson, who wrote The Jigsaw Man. And I think The Jigsaw Man is out today. So that's going to be very exciting too. So yeah, lots to look forward to. So that just leaves us time to say thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
In suspense.
You know what I really intended to do yesterday was I was going to ring Laurie up and say, let's just practice this thing once and for all. But, you know, hey ho, there you go.
I just don't, it's getting that timing right, isn't it? And how long we do the in for.
Suspense.
Yeah.
Elongated.
Maybe we should just go in suspense next
Yes, I think we should.
Okay, we'll do that next time.
Okay, next week, next fortnight, tune in and it will be perfect. It will be absolutely perfect. Guarantee it. Anyway, thanks very much, Sarah. Lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.